Well, hello Internet. In this video, I'm going to take you through the process of making a click and cues track for a song in Ableton Live. Using a click and cues track can be super helpful for performance, recording, communicating ideas, and so much more. They are simple yet underrated tools that any Ableton user should consider adding to their toolbox. Now, just a heads up, there are helpful techniques for everyone here, but this is mainly a tutorial for how to use products that I have made and have for sale called TBT band tools. If you're more of a beginner, I would recommend picking them up. However, if you're an advanced Ableton user, it is possible to make these on your own. I would still recommend buying them just to save the time though. I have tried to make them as accessible as I can. Okay, let's get into it. Today I'm going to be using a track called Enough by NEFFEX. I don't know a ton about them, but they release seemingly all of their music royalty-free, which allows me to use it in this video. For that at least, they are pretty awesome. You can download this song legally for free with a YouTube account, but I would recommend buying it to support them. You don't need this song, you can use any song, but I'll leave links in the description of this video if you're trying to follow along exactly. Okay, I've got the song and all three TBT band tools in my downloads folder. I'm going to extract all the zip files. Then copy everything into this folder on my desktop called For Example. The file compression process adds an extra folder, so I'm going to purposely leave it behind to reduce clutter. Now inside of Ableton, I'm going to add the For Example folder to the Places section. Now that everything is here inside of Ableton, I'm going to drag in the track and delete all the others for now. I'm going to rename this Original Track and color it red and assign track color to Clips. I'm also going to turn the volume down to -10. This helps prevent clipping and other situations where the original track being so much louder than everything else is a bad thing. Next, I'm going to select the clip and make sure the track isn't warped. If you're going to be doing this often, I would recommend going into your preferences, going to the Record Warp Launch section, and turning off Auto Warp Long Samples. Now the first thing we need to figure out is the tempo, and ideally the time signature as well. This can be very easy or fairly difficult depending on the song. Hopefully you already know this information for the track you are preparing. Often you can find it on the internet as well. I'm going to show you my general approach, which will work for a lot of songs, but the overall process could probably be a whole separate video or even a course at a university. Alright, now that I've probably scared you with that disclaimer, let's figure this one out. I'm going to press play and see what I hear. I'm going to turn on the track first. Okay, this track is going to serve as a great example because it's got that 4 on the floor kick drum right at the beginning. We can use that to dial in our metronome. I'm going to listen to it again and count in 4/4 and see if it fits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, you heard that when I counted in 4/4, it brought us perfectly into what sounds like the first verse. That's a pretty good sign that this will be in 4/4. Now, I'm going to quickly check the rest of the song and see if there is any obvious tempo changes.
Go take it! Oh, the drive, yeah. I think sick of dealing with the old plan. All the demons quiet, yeah. We were the drive, yeah. They know that we're calling it love. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling.
Sweet, it seems pretty consistent. Now, what I typically do is I open up a Metronome app on my phone and match the tempo as I play back the song. I do it this way because if you try and do it in Ableton, it will adjust the tempo as you're trying to tap in the tempo, and that just doesn't work for our use case here. Another way you could do it is by listening to the song in a separate music player, then using the tap tempo inside of Ableton. I'm just going to use my Metronome app. I'll link the one I'm using, but most of them will probably work. Okay, and then
You can see the writing on the paper.
okay, it seems like it's around 107 BPM. I'm going to type that into Ableton. Then I'm going to give this track 2 bars of space so I have room to work and so I can add a count in later. Now I'm going to zoom in on this kick drum and line it up with the grid. I'm holding Alt or the Command key on Mac for precision, by the way. And now if I zoom back out, I can see the tempo is a little off because the kick transient is slowly drifting from the beat. In this case, it's late. You can see it's happening after the beat. If it was early, it would be before this line. So I'm going to adjust the tempo to 106, and that's going to force me to move my kick drum back into place. And it's still drifting. Let's try 105. Okay, that's it. You can see they are lined up now. And if I turn on Ableton's metronome, I can check that it remains lined up over the course of the song.
We're built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've already known. Used to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think, yeah. I think that we've already known. I think that we've already known. Sick of dealing with the I think that we've already known. Sick of dealing with the they don't ever call it.
Sweet. Now that's aligned to the grid. Let's lock it in with some tempo clips. One quality of life thing while we're here, I'm going to add the .als file into a collection called build tracks. Alright, these are the tempo clips. They are helpful for a bunch of different use cases, but let's keep working on our song here and I'll explain as we go. I'm going to scroll down to 105 BPM and drag it in. Then I'm going to move the new tempo track up to the top. This is actually important in some situations, which I'll explain later. Then, if I hover over the side of the clip, I can click and drag it to the length of the entire song. Then I just need to make sure it's selected and set it to lead. If you're using Live 9, you'll need to set it to master instead of slave, by the way. Now we can see that Ableton's BPM is grayed out. If I try to click and drag to change it, it doesn't budge. Sometimes there's a little dot here as well to help indicate that the tempo is being controlled by something else. Now let's say I wanted to have a tempo change, but I wanted to change it to something unusual, maybe a fraction or something that didn't fit between 50 and 250 BPM. That's where this tempo sync clip comes in. We can just go ahead and drag this in. And I want to get an idea of what halftime towards the end would sound like. It will probably sound bad, but it gives us a fraction to work with, so let's see. If I want the song to actually respond to tempo changes correctly, I need to warp it. I'm going to set it to complex because beats is better for percussion-focused stuff. Okay, I want the halftime change probably somewhere in this last chorus section. Like right there. So I just drag the tempo sync clip to that spot. I'm going to press Ctrl R or Command R to rename and type 52.5 BPM. Then, with that clip selected, I just need to come down to this segment BPM marker here and type 52.5 again. If this is grayed out for some reason, just click on this little warp marker right here and it should light up. Lastly, I just need to set it to leader. Okay, let's see how this sounds. Or we could try it at the end here. Maybe here. Now that's a pretty extreme tempo change, so warping can only help us so much, but if we had multi-track stems, we could tweak it to sound pretty good. The main point is that it's easy to play around and see where that transition point is. Also, it's easy to share this with your band and say, hey, I want to try this next time we rehearse. Furthermore, if you're building a whole set list of songs, it's much easier to figure out transitions while keeping everything in sync. So if this was over here and it was the start of a new song, you could set it up like this. And the tempo switches just as before. Now, one thing that might happen when you're working on a set list like this is your tempo clips might overlap. Let me show you. I'm going to move this down. So in this situation, it's important to know that the lower tempo clip always wins. That means as soon as the playhead crosses 52.5 BPM here, Ableton doesn't care about this 105 BPM anymore. It's switching to 52.5 BPM regardless. If I play it, you'll hear the metronome change speeds again. One last, less obvious reason tempo clips are helpful is that once I'm done preparing this song, I can then drag and drop it into any project and the tempo is going to be maintained. That can be super helpful if you're trying to make a database of tracks that you can drag and drop into any set list. Okay, it's time to move on to our next tool, the custom click track. I've made a video on how to make one of these if you're not interested in mine. I'll link that video in the description. I would check that out afterwards if you're interested. Okay, I'm going to place the advanced clicktrack.als file in my build tracks collection as I did with the tempo clips. And as we figured out before, this song is in 4/4, so I can just drag that guy right in. And then just like the tempo clips, drag it over the course of the song. Also, I can turn off Ableton's metronome now. Now if I double click on the track, it should open up device view. But if you're in this view for some reason, just select device view here. I'm going to loop this 52.5 BPM section just so I can demonstrate a few things. If this was a faster tempo, I could take away eighth notes if I want. If I wanted it to sound crazy, I could turn on 16th notes. You can see that if I want triplets, it says to use fours, which just means to make sure quarter notes are on. I can turn the accent note on and off, so here's with it. And without it. When it's on, you can change the volume of the accent with this if you need to. I'll just make it really quiet to make it obvious. I like it at 1 dB so that's actually accented. Then we have a bunch of click types at our disposal. Lastly, I would only touch the master volume when you absolutely need to. Maybe you need a little bump for a loud part of a song or something along those lines, but otherwise the goal should be a really consistent volume across all your songs. So just like the tempo clips, an advantage of this is that it's easy to manipulate. For example, we could have the click end right on the last beat of this song, and then grab another 4/4 clip for song 2. That would sound like this. Kind of a nice little break from the click in between songs. Another thing that's easy to do, let's move this song out of the way first. And then we can extend out the click and the tempo. And then use the loop bracket I set up earlier. And then maybe live we would crash out there. And then if we wanted to improvise, the click would just keep looping and help us keep in time if we did anything different from our usual arrangement. So yeah, pretty handy, and just like tempo clips, when this song is all prepped, it'll be easy to drag and drop into any project and have the same metronome settings ready to go. Alright, last but not least, let's add some guide cues. Again, I'm going to dig down and add the .als file to my collections. These cues actually come with a folder that do not require Ableton to use. It's just like another sample pack, so don't be afraid to take advantage of those. Alright, I'm going to focus on the beginning of our song. I prefer a 2-bar count in. I think it helps everybody acclimate to the tempo without being too long, but obviously do what feels best here. To make it, I'm going to open up the count section on our guide cues. I'm going to add the 1 on the first beat and a 2 on the third beat. Then I'm going to open up the sections dropdown, grab intro, then go back to counts and add 2, 3, and 4. And now we have a count in for our song. 1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4. Now if that seems kind of tedious, what I often do is highlight and copy this intro 2, 3, 4, or just the 2, 3, 4 portion. I'll do intro 2, 3, 4 for now. And then whenever I want to add a cue for a new section, I just paste that in and update the name. So let's keep going through this song. Let's just go ahead and do... Four on the floor, 3, 4. Pretty sure that that's the verse. Verse, 2, 3, 4.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide.
2, 3, 4.
What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
Okay, I think this is a pre-chorus. Because I'm assuming that that big part's the chorus. And then we can throw in another kick it in. Without a count this time.
Yeah. 4 on the floor. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.
2, 3, 4. Chorus, 3, 4. Okay, it goes right into the verse there. Verse 2, 3, 4.
It's too late to try to go contain it.
This looks like another pre-chorus. Just go. Pre-chorus, 3, 4.
What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah.
We'll just do another 4 on the floor. 4 on the floor.
I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night.
And then this is definitely the chorus again. I'll just get rid of that. Chorus, 3, 4. Okay, we got another chorus there, but this is probably the last one. So I'm gonna pull this in. This song's pretty loud, so last chorus, 3. I just add a little bit more on that. Last chorus, 3, 4. I did that by adjusting the clip gain right here. Okay, we'll just put an end cue there. Okay, I'm feeling good about that. It does take a little bit of time, but the nice part is that you only have to do it once to reap the benefits. All right, there are a few things we can do to clean this up and make it look professional. I'm going to remove all of our hypothetical song 2 information. And then there are multiple ways I could do this, but I'm going to start right at the end of the song here at measure 67, and then I'm going to highlight all the way to the beginning. Then, without clicking anywhere else, I'm going to hold Control or Command on Mac and select the original track. Now I just need to right-click somewhere in that selection and consolidate. This fills in all the blank space and gives us a nice clean look. I'm going to rename this clip to Cues. And maybe the track as well. And match the color. Sweet. And if for some reason I made a mistake, I can easily drag in a new cue. Let's say at the end, I want it to say drop instead of end to remind the band that's a quick cutoff. And then there's nothing wrong with consolidating again if you want to. And that's how guide cues work. Our song is pretty much prepped now, but I've got a few more tips and tricks I want to demonstrate to bring this to the next level. The first thing we can do is add a locator at the beginning. Just hover over the scrub area until your cursor becomes a speaker, and then right click. I usually type 1, then the name of the song. Now I need to press Ctrl K or Command K on Mac to enter key mapping mode. Select the locator again, press 1, and now I can exit key mapping mode with the same hotkey or just click up here. And now I can quickly jump back to the beginning with that hotkey.
We were built to thrive, yeah.
1, 2. Now many people will place locators all throughout the song so they can quickly jump around. For example, they would add one here and type verse 1. They would add another here and type pre-chorus. Actually, verse 1's over here, and the pre-chorus is right here. And they would keep going like this until they covered the whole song. This works great, but you can run into a few problems. For one, if I ever need to shift things, all my locators get messed up. Another issue is that they won't drag and drop between projects. Also, locators can just clutter things up when you start using a ton of them. To solve this, I make a song map using MIDI clips. Let me show you. I'm going to go up to Create and select Insert MIDI Track. I'm going to move that to the very top and call it Song Map. Color it white. And then I want to click and drag to highlight the area between the beginning and verse 1 on my MIDI track. This area right here. Then I want to right click and select Insert Empty MIDI Clip. Then I want to rename this clip and call it Intro. Now instead of doing that over and over, I can just select it and press Ctrl or Command D on Mac to duplicate it. Stretch it out over the section. Rename it to verse 1. And keep going throughout the song. And you can just zoom through this using your guide cues as a guide.
Built to thrive, yeah.
Chorus 3. Pre-chorus.
Yeah.
Chorus. Cool. Then I can collapse this. Delete these two locators. And sweet. Now I have a really visual way to jump around the song. Pre-chorus, 3, 4. Chorus, 3, 4. Pre-chorus, 3, 4. You may have noticed that I placed my markers right where the guide cues start counting in, rather than at the beginning of the section. I do it this way because it makes it really simple to jump around during rehearsal without messing up the count in. For example, if I wanted to start from this pre-chorus, all I would need to do is make sure my cursor is before the pre-chorus marker. Then, when I press play, it counts everybody in. If the markers were at the start of the section and the Ableton set was much larger, it can be harder to judge where to launch it correctly, and then it can count in too quickly. It just leads to wasted rehearsal time, and I personally want to avoid that as much as possible. It's also nice if you have someone else controlling the Ableton computer. It just makes it easier on them as they try to jump around. That said, either way is totally valid. Try out both and see what you like. Alright, let's save our song. I'm going to save it in the For Example folder again, but I would encourage you to make a folder of prepped tracks for yourself. For that folder on my computer, I use a naming system that goes like this. I start with the name of the song, then the artist, then the tempo, and then it was too much to cover for this video, but I usually include the key of the song, which I believe is A minor. Then I'm going to type NT, which means no tracks or no backing tracks. It's just click and guide. And then 11, which means Ableton 11. If the song or artist name was too long, I would find ways to shorten it a bit, but this is fine. Okay, now we just need to collect all and save. This will allow us to move this project around to different folders, to different computers, wherever we want without having to worry about files getting lost in the process. Let me show you how easy it is to drag and drop our song into any set list now. I'm going to open up another NEFFEX song I have prepped and ready to go. This will be the first song in our hypothetical set list. I'm going to save this one with the name of the show. We can just call it the really short opening set. Now let's bring in the song we just prepped. Just drag it on in. Then I want to select the first song map marker, then hold Shift and click on the cues. Then I can click and drag all of it over to the end of the first song. Now I can dial in this transition real quick. Add a locator. And map it. Pull this click track back. Let's see how that sounds. Get ready to drop. And 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Intro, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that feels good. Last thing I would do is I would group everything up besides the song maps. Control or Command G on Mac. Click on the tempo track, hold Shift, select the cues, Control or Command G on Mac. And now we have a super clean set. I can easily jump to different sections like the pre-chorus of the first song. Pre-chorus, 3, 4. Or the second verse of the second song. Verse 2, 3, 4. And I can use my number keys to jump between songs if I press the number 1. 1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4. If I press number 2 on my keyboard, it jumps to the second song. 1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully you can see how useful all these tools and techniques are for making click and cues. I hope they save you a ton of time and hassle as you try to perform and make music. Thanks for hanging out with me, and hopefully I'll see you in another video soon.